Hi all, Jack again. Okay. The end. Reality compressed into one molecule. What does that mean? Okay. Now, I've spoken about gravity. Gravity compressing the sound expression of existence into one manifestation, which is what you see physically here as human beings. Understand that the only physical manifestation in this world is human beings, this world, nature, the animal kingdom, the universe, the planets and the stars, etc. Other beings of other planets, history in the past, were interdimensional. They didn't manifest as human beings, and thus they're absolutely at the moment dimensional. And they don't exist as they were anymore. That part I will also explain as I continue with the history of man. So, how does the end, in terms of reality compressing into one molecule, what does that mean? If you have a look at human beings at the moment, if you have a look at nature, if you have a look at the world, everything else, everything is compressed into one. You see one of everything, yet in a different expression, but it is still one. Now, through aeons of time, in the beginning, everything was basically sound movement. Even in communication in the dimensions, when you speak, everything was a movement of sound. You could actually see the words when you speak float, okay? And everything was in a movement, like a river flowing, everything that happened. But as everything started compressing, that movement started to stop. What do I mean by stop? That movement started flowing, and then flowing quicker, and almost like it's everything still moving, but it's not moving like this anymore. It's moving so fast that it's actually compressed into one singular movement of vibration. So, everything since the beginning has gotten to one singular point, one singular manifestation. Everything is so compressed at this very moment that everything consists of, move as, and express as, and experience as is one. In other words, let's say, for instance, existence in its entirety, everything encompassing everything, was like a river flowing. Everything that was expressed or experienced was like a river flowing. Now, through time, to the gravitational insert within existence, everything started compressing. In other words, the river of experience, expression and flow started compacting into a glass manifestation. But it still moves. Remember, everything in existence vibrates at a specific frequency of sound. So everything was first vibrating at a frequency of flow, lengthy, etc. Now we've compacted everything into one vibration. In other words, it's not flowing anymore. It is instantaneous, even here on Earth. So everything is now compressed into glass, almost like not anymore going floating around. So what does this mean? This gives us the opportunity to now shatter the glass of the illusion, which is consciousness existence. So, whatever has ever existed in existence will shatter like glass, and the realism of the expression of the I am will be seen as the experience and expression of self. So, for instance, let's look at how communication looked like in the dimensions previously. Actually, when you speak, you could see the sound of the words move from without you to another being. Whereas now, when you speak to someone, you become that communication or conversation you're relaying to the other being. In other words, it's not sound moving anymore. I am the expression of sound and the communication in that moment. For instance, let's say a question wants to be asked. I become the manifestation of the question in its entirety here as the expression that is me. And the being I'm expressing myself to as this question understands me because we're one. or the being will place me as him within him, and then place the question as him, as me, as one, and understand what I'm asking. It is fascinating. So in other words, what does that mean? It means that everything that is happening in this world is the process that is being experienced and expressed. It's happening right here, right now. In other words, everything is compounded, intensified, specific. So therefore, everything is one in all its manifested expressions. And that's what human beings must understand. What is your starting point? The starting point is the realization that I am the living word. Become the words you speak, human beings. Express the words you speak as one with you. That is heaven as earth, where human beings become the words they speak as I am the living word. And so, with becoming the living word and the words I speak as one with me, as one with me, of me, we shatter the glass of the illusions of this consciousness existence reality. Because we start seeing ourselves, we start realizing ourselves, and we start becoming aware of ourselves within the expression of I am the living word. Okay, thank you very much. This is Jack.